I'm Maria Menounos, and you're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
Hello, guys. We are back. This is the last time we will see you tonight, but we will be back tomorrow covering the last two episodes. Tonight, we are covering Space Force, episodes 7 and 8, and then, of course, the rest of the series later. We also have our special segment. So good, you guys. I'm truly enjoying our special segment. Thank you, Kevin, for bringing those on.
Absolutely.
And our news and gossip. But before we get into anything, my name is Tatiana Marisa, and Kevin Allen, who loves all things Greg Daniels. How you doing?
Mm-hmm. I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I feel like we know each other really well now.
Yeah.
I've seen you all day.
Yes.
So it's good. It's the first time, guys, if you didn't know, this is the first time I've met Kevin was today. So, we're great friends now. It's really good. Yeah. Okay. Diving into episode 7, Edison James. Overall thoughts for episode 7.
Edison James. This was fine. Like,
did you think it was more like a filler episode? Or
this one, yeah. This one was the one I felt like was the filler episode. I mean, I enjoyed it and I thought it was funny, and there was a lot of little things about this episode I really liked, mostly just character nuances and growth to make these characters feel more like real people. And I'm starting to notice a turn in this show, not like a dramatic one, but I feel like it's becoming a less of a goofy comedy and more of a really sincere, heartfelt character piece. And I'm totally fine with that. But this episode kind of being the transition one between those, just, I guess, maybe caught me off guard a little bit.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. I feel like this is not the comedy it's turning out to be from the beginning. The tone has definitely changed, but I'm not mad at it. No. I like when Steve Carell, especially when he takes on more serious roles, because I think he's a fantastic actor and he can totally merge both together, which is what he's done. And so, I like the direction it's going. I do. I like the direction it's going. That's all I have to say about that. Let's talk about Edison James and her skinny fuel, which I thought was hilarious because, as you know, they're called skinny girl products that are out there today, like skinny margarita, skinny girl margarita, skinny girl. I know she has a bunch of other stuff, but when she called it skinny fuel and it was champagne colored, I was like,
yeah, the rosé colored was the one I was like, really though?
Yeah, like we don't need.
Who are you marketing this to?
Exactly. But she's not necessarily the brains behind any of this. She's more like the motivational spokesperson behind it, because she talked up Mark like, you are a great thinker, and if you just believe, and I'm like, that's not the type of person that would, a business person who's like, here's my fuel, you need to buy it, blah, 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 telling her all the specs of everything, What were your first impressions of Edison James?
Well, she's clearly the Elon Musk stand-in for this like alternate universe. Like, everyone is just like a version of people we know in the real world here.
Yeah.
And obviously the young tech entrepreneur who's partnering with the space program. I'm like, well, that's clearly Elon Musk.
Yeah. Interesting take on Elon Musk.
Well, so you said it, not me. He didn't found Tesla Motors. Like, he's not one of the engineers.
True.
He's just the face of the company. He's the spokesman. So I don't think it was a far cry from Elon Musk.
Oh snap! Are you throwing shade? Is that what I'm detecting?
Yes. At Elon Musk, yes, I am throwing shade. Like, Tesla cars are cool and all, but that guy, come on.
Yeah. He passes off to know. I feel like he knows more about his product than Edison James does. Like, she hadn't even tested skinny fuel, and she was just hoping that it would work and selling it to the government.
Yeah, I'll give Elon that he knows his product, and they work. Like, Tesla cars work, and they're a good product. Whereas she was like, she probably added pink food coloring to a more concentrated version of kerosene and just dumped that on a fire,
right?
And called it science. Like, come on.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, no, she's pure sham.
Yeah. And she's a fashionista, apparently, with her algorithm app for what to wear.
Oh, that too. I was like, I don't want to be like pick a lane, but I was like, how are you this like fashion computer
Yeah.
mashup guru and also someone who's cracked, like Mallory put it, this unsolvable riddle in chemistry?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. And Mallory was totally enthralled with her. I don't think I've seen him like actually so puppy dog over somebody, following them around and just in awe. I've never seen him do that
Mm-hmm.
before. So for him to be quickly, averted from that, I was like, oh, that sucks.
Yeah, it was. I thought it was interesting how he started off like really wanting to get to know her all the best, and it was Mark who was dismissive, and they completely swapped their relationship dynamics with her. So now Mallory wants nothing to do with her, but at this point, everybody else on the base is enamored with her and following her around for every beck and call. It was a classic comedy scenario, but there was something that was really interesting about the way that this show did it.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Because they just take her at her word. Okay, sure. It was crazy though, because the fact that she's never tried it before and then she passed the president's scope and was just
That's not
like,
hard.
okay. Oh, sorry. That's not hard at all. Got it. Well, we know where you stand on this. Would you
Well,
care to elaborate or?
Well, this president, this POTUS, I just keep
Yes.
referring to him as POTUS because that's all they refer to him on the show with the red
Yeah.
phone and everything. He's just very like shoot from the hip. He only ever says or tweets or texts one sentence at a time,
Mm-hmm.
and he kind of just takes things as they're presented at face value. So the examples I'm coming up here is every time he's had a problem, he just texts Mark on the phone. It's been one sentence, one and done. Then there was the star that was gifted to him by the Space Force team,
Mm-hmm.
but he didn't bother to like find out where it came from or whose idea it really was. That was really uncharacteristic for the Secretary of Defense to present him with this gift, and he
Right.
just took it at face value.
Yeah.
So we've got these little clues that and there's obviously suggesting Donald Trump as well, like as
Of
clear
course.
inspiration.
Yes.
And he loves experts from television. Like that's where he gets a lot of his opinions, and he will call in people purely because they are celebrity of their field.
Exactly.
So it's right up this character's alley that is just the face of a company who has no real insight to pass his test to be passed along for a partnership in the for the government operation. I mean, it just all the pieces are there.
Yeah. Yeah. I wholeheartedly agree. This is, however, F. Tony's moment to shine and be the hero.
And that's another thing that I was like, that's so all these relationship dynamics that you would expect to come out of her showing up, everything just got swirled around.
Yeah. Yeah. But he did his job. He did the right thing, which I didn't think he would. I didn't think he
No,
would because he's like in it for himself. He's a very selfish character. But
this is the character episode. This is where things start to turn.
It is. It totally is. So he actually shows himself by telling them, this is not the fuel you want to use. This is going to be horrible. The way he described it was very him. But I'm glad that Mark saw through it exactly what he was trying to say and stopped it.
Yeah, props to F. Tony for like not only going out to interrupt the whole test and do the right thing, but like how on earth did he get out into that launch site where he could have been incinerated?
Right.
Like he
was
was
knocking on the
just,
window.
yeah, like you either have to give him credit for his bravery and
Yeah.
going out there and doing that, or his like know-how of finding that tiny window.
Yeah.
So it's
Or stupidity for just, not seeing beyond what he needs to do.
that's what I mean. Like he was either knew what he was doing by going out there and being super brave, or he was being an idiot, but he at least knew where the window was.
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna go with idiot. I like F. Tony's character, but I'm gonna go with idiot. Poor guy, but yeah. But then of course Mark saves face for Edison James and gets the called in favor that they don't need any more outside help and everything is fine, which I thought was really cool for him to do. It shows he's not an asshole.
Yeah.
So that
And
was,
he was better than I would have been about it.
Me too. I would have been pissed.
Yeah. But
yeah,
I gave him the credit that I was like, I'm like, why are you letting her get away with this? But who else is she gonna sell it to? Like
anybody. She could sell it to anybody.
Consumers are gonna. Is it a rocket fuel for consumers, or is it just like an all-purpose fuel? Because I gave him a pass because I was like, the only people who could buy it are basically his competitors. So like rival countries.
Yes, or she could go for those crazy people who just want rocket fuel. Yeah. She could sell it. I guess she could sell it to the competitors, or she could market it as something else and as not rocket fuel and say it's, fantastic lighter fluid.
Yeah, which it was good lighter fluid.
Yeah, exactly.
But even so, like he got POTUS off his back.
Yeah.
So that was a smart move.
Yeah. So I'm happy with that altogether. Let's talk about Erin real quick. And Duncan. So they're really getting to know each other. And Duncan is trying his hardest. I feel for the guy. They commit their first crime together, but he's trying to impress her with everything he reads from the World Wide Web. Just like a bunch of conspiracy theories.
Duncan is the expression, bless your heart, personified.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yes.
That is Duncan altogether. I feel for him. I feel like there could be a relationship there because she's definitely smitten with him, but she seemed to have lost interest when he started saying all the things that he read.
He requires a lot of work. I mean, and the thing is, Duncan is a pure airhead, let's be real. But he's so sweet and earnest and dedicated. Like he is willing to do the work. So if she's willing to do the work with him, he will follow through and match.
He's a golden retriever.
Yeah. Yes, he is. Oh my gosh. So Greg Daniels, he just did Upload, and we got to talk to Kevin Bigley on our after show, and he did the episode of Quarantine in the Stars, and he refers to his character on Greg Daniels' last show as the human Labrador, and now we're meeting the human golden retriever. I smell a theme.
There you go. So he knows what he's doing, but he must love these characters if he's using it twice.
And I loved Kevin Bigley's character on Upload, and Duncan, as long as he can get past the Queen Elizabeth lizard talk, like
he's growing on you.
Yeah, he is. He's growing on me. I gotta admit it.
And of course, last but not least, I want to talk about, speaking about relationships, Ali wants to learn botany and become an astronaut. So she goes to
Dr. Chan.
Thank you, Dr. Chan, who we now found out because of the interrogation that he's totally into Black girls. So this might be a match made in heaven.
I didn't catch it until next episode.
For real?
Well, in the next episode, I didn't catch it.
I was like,
I was like, oh, wait a minute.
This is his dream come true. This is, he's gonna be in love. That's what's gonna happen.
So let me tell you why I didn't catch it though, because it's an unlikely pairing. Like their paths should not cross. She is a helicopter pilot, and he's like head of the science division underground. So like
he's a botanist.
Literally, their paths should never cross because she's up in the air, he's underground. Totally different field. I'm amazing to have the same commissary on this base. It's just kind of like happenstance that she happens to need to learn botany, and he's not a tutor like he expressed. And so when they finally start to talk, like there's this initial animosity. Like she needs him, if somebody, to educate on the subject. He definitely doesn't want to do it. When he finally does agree to do it, she's coming in with like her stubbornness, so they never met eye to eye. They never got on the same page the entire time. So I never ever imagined not only would they get on the same page, maybe romantically have interest, but when am I going to learn? Because opposites attract.
There you go.
Of course.
There it is. There it lies the answer. Of course it's going to happen. I'm glad. I hope that is explored, which I'm sure it will be. We only have a couple episodes left, but I'm sure it will be explored. And then last but not least, to wrap up episode 7, China has boots on the moon.
Yeah.
Does that last blip, that last scene, China has boots on the moon. So everybody seems to be outdoing Mark at his job. We have India in the last episode launched a rocket that had the same fins as we did. The Pegasus, is that called Pegasus fins or something?
Yes.
And now we have China, who is actually has a base on the moon already. So that wrapped up episode 7. Going into episode 8, which was called Conjugal Visit. Finally, he gets his conjugal visit. We're going to talk going to Denver, and of course, Project Mayflower. But first, overall thoughts of episode 8.
So this one I enjoyed more as an episode. Okay, so yeah, we've had that turn, and I didn't realize at the time why I enjoyed it so much, but there was a lot of just really good character stuff this episode.
Yeah.
I always try to take notes and jot down my thoughts when I'm watching this stuff, just to make sure that I'm on track as we're talking about it. I kept not taking notes. I was just so enthralled in everyone's story that I forgot that I'm supposed to be viewing this analytically. And I was wrapped up in everyone's plights.
That means that it's good writing. If the show has caught you in that way, then I feel like that's good writing. So
yeah,
it just took until, I don't know why they wanted to switch, going from such a comedy, how it started off, like that first episode was very comedic, and then to bring it to now, I wonder what made them switch it. But I like that it's not so politically driven anymore. It's still there, but it's not as much, which I can appreciate.
So the reason I think, you had to start it comedically because they're talking about an absurd premise. Like,
sure.
And as much like, God, doing the news segments, especially going through the show, like I've come to realize, like, against all odds, the real life Space Force has kind of got its stuff together.
Yeah.
The flag is dumb. We talked about that, but they for all intents and purposes are functioning like they are expected to. But the sheer notion of it, nonetheless, is absurd. It's just not a thing. Space warfare right now.
Right.
Not.
Right now is the key word, right?
Well, the show is 1 year in the future after you've lost the Postal Service.
Yes, which is important to note. That's where the funding came from.
I was like, no, this is a travesty.
I don't want to believe that would ever happen. Don't want to believe that would ever happen. But I mean, where else are they going to find the funding for all of that? It's an insane amount.
I can tell you this: the U.S. Postal Service is not getting $6 billion a year. I can tell you that.
No, absolutely not.
Rude.
Absolutely not.
Anywho.
Yes.
Like I said, it's not that political of a show anymore.
No, not anymore.
Yeah, as it goes on, it's because it's not about the absurd premise anymore. It's about the people, and it's almost to the point where I wonder why they decided to make such a quality character show out of this farce, this farcical premise that we all came to laugh at.
I'm there with you. I have the same
television, but I can understand why people aren't on the same page, is because they keep wanting it to be something else. And the show decided it's like, we had our fun poking fun at the premise, and then we had our fun with possible scenarios in this fictional universe, and now we're just going to get into the good stuff.
Yeah. I 100% agree. Let's talk about going to Denver. Talking about the good stuff. Let's talk about.
Oh yes! Cheers to Tatiana. That was amazing.
Let's talk about going to Denver. He just can't bring it to terms to tell his daughter that he's going for a conjugal visit. And of course, once he sees his wife, it's the first time jitters. He hasn't been with his wife or hugged his wife in a year, I believe is what he said. A whole year. So he hasn't slept with anybody for an entire year. So I imagine that they're both pretty awkward and rusty, as we see. And I'm sure that there's a lot that needs to be said. There's just so much to squeeze in the short amount of time that they had.
Yeah, and they go by 15-minute intervals, so he chose 45. Like,
Yeah, it's weird. It's super weird.
yeah,
But they made it work. The deed was done, and it was good, but not without some like super awkwardness. But he almost didn't know how to talk to her anymore because, how are you doing? You're in prison. Why don't you play the harp? You always like to play the harp. But she's like, well, you can't play the harp in prison because, it could be seen as a suicide or a murder weapon or.
yeah. So he, not that he's being like willfully ignorant about it or anything, but
Yeah,
that he hasn't quite understood her new dynamic, like the new world that she's in, the new
her
life.
reality. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. They both have new lives. His is very different than it
Mhm.
was probably before she went into prison. Certainly how it's been in a year or two. Hers is as well, in a
Right.
way that he can no longer relate to.
Right.
And so they're not on the same page anymore.
And he just wants to go back to the way it was, I'm sure,
Yeah.
and that's where he's trying to pick up. I think he's trying to pick up where they left off, but that's just impossible.
Well, yeah, he gave 45 minutes because he assumed it would be just like it always has been.
Right.
And so not only did that not go according to plan, with zippers and whatnot, but she dropped a lot of stuff that needed to be said between the two of them,
Hmm.
and how, like, she's basically like, look, the reality is I'm here for 40 years. Like, this is my life now, and
Man,
my
what
life has new terms.
what did she do is what I would like to know. That is something they have not addressed.
There's not been a hint or anything.
Nothing. So this is the first time in episode 8 that we find out she has 40 years in prison.
Yeah. And I thought she said 4. And then when it said again, it was 40. I was like, oh,
40.
this is way more severe and
Way
different than
longer.
picturing.
Yeah, way longer. And so I could understand why she would want an open marriage, and she needs her needs met and he needs his needs met, because you can't have, I mean, you could, but it's would be unbearable to only have sex twice a year.
I had the handshake machine. It'd probably be easier.
Yeah, not with the attendant there.
That's right. That's okay. That's fair. Okay. So we can't factor that in as a
Can't factor that
possibility.
in.
No.
So I can understand. I could understand why she would want to say, "Hey, I need an open marriage for the both of us." But what do you think? Do you think, would a divorce be just the same, or are they kidding themselves by having an open marriage and calling it, good?
Um, it's hard to say. Like, Lisa Kudrow's performance really was very convincing, and
Hmm.
I bought everything that she was saying. Um, the trouble is, the reason I can't answer this question is because what she basically was getting at is the terms of their life as they had expected them have not come to fulfillment, and they're completely changed now.
Right.
And the commitments that they made to one another now have like new conditions. Like, there are just new conditions, and they have to adjust every other facet of their life and how they approach it, down to their perspectives as individuals, that it only makes sense that you would have to adjust this as well. Now, what those terms mean for them, that's where they have to decide. Like, I can't say for them. Um, the physical relationship is one thing that they have a lot of obstructions and obstacles to get around. So that's why she wants to alter that term, because there are concrete limitations. Whereas, this is what it depends for them with the terms of their marriage, where the spiritual, the ethical, the matters of the heart, like all of those things aren't really affected,
Hmm.
or are affected less severely. And so she's not saying that if you throw out one, you got to throw out the other. That they are exclusive, that they're not dependent on one another,
Right.
that their relationship is not defined purely by physical visits and conjugal visits. So that's for them to say.
Yeah.
Just grabbing at straws here, I would imagine that no, the divorce is not the thing that works for them.
Yeah. Yeah. It'd be hard to put myself in that position, but I completely understand where she's coming from, and I can completely understand where he's coming from. But he's holding on to this ideal, of this perfect marriage that he once had, and I don't think that he's ready to let go of that and face the fact that this is something completely different. And I think that's shown when he gets in the helicopter and is leaving and is crying,
Oh yeah.
and then forgets his daughter there.
I was like,
So his daughter's like running around by herself. What the fuck, Dad? So
like I was watching his like in his tears in Carell's eyes. He's doing a masterful performance, but I was like,
yeah,
he's surrounded by a lot of negative space right now.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
and I know she ran off, but she didn't run home, did she?
No, she didn't. I mean, she can't run that far, that it wouldn't see anything. So anyway, yeah. So it was a healthy dose of a little bit of comedy that went with something that was extremely serious, because that was a very emotional moment. I want to touch really quickly on Project Mayflower, which is Mallory having a hard time to find the people, because everybody's bargaining with them, or they have cold feet and they're going out. Do you think that if Mark were there, he would have been more successful?
I don't know. Because we only really got to see like him talk to maybe two actual contenders, and the one guy was just like being a greedy butthole. So
yeah, asking for $1 million.
It's hard to say like whether Mark would have like intimidated him into accepting the deal or something. Yeah, but it didn't help that like Mallory was only being backed up by F. Tony, and so it wasn't I'm sure maybe that first one could have gone the same way, but I can only imagine that a lot of people were like seeing their crew and be like, no, we don't want any part of this.
Like, never mind.
Yeah.
That's
3
awesome.
days to pull this off? No.
Yeah, and that's a tight schedule. I think they're just rushing things because of the whole China predicament. But yeah. Okay. All that being said, we have a little bit of time left. So I really wanted to get into, you said special segment or news and gossip was better. Special segment, right?
I've been holding on to this one, and because there's every other special segment I've come up with has been something tied to an episode, and this one, there was a partnership with a commercial enterprise to help launch rockets into space, and that only reminds me of the space launch that happened this weekend. And I'd be remiss if we talked about Space Force and did not talk about the successful shuttle launch that happened yesterday.
Absolutely.
So, for those of you who are not aware, NASA's commercial crew program had the first part of its final test on Saturday. It got postponed for weather, like we expected in the launch of the pilot episode of this show. And they had a second very successful attempt yesterday. The Crew Dragon spacecraft was launched by the Falcon 9 rocket from the Kennedy Space Center in Florida yesterday at 12:22 Pacific Standard Time. There were two American astronauts aboard, Bob Duncan and Doug Hurley. And this is the first astronaut launch from U.S. soil with U.S. astronauts since the space shuttle program was dissolved and retired in 2011. So this is a big deal. It's been 9 years since we've attempted to launch anybody into space. And not only did we pull that off, but it was met with one success after the other. The Falcon 9 booster returned to land on SpaceX's drone ship. It had I can't believe this one. They have a ship that used math to go out to sea and catch the rocket that fell back to Earth. Like the rocket that fell back to Earth landed back on Earth on an unmanned ship in the middle of the ocean, and that happened successfully. And the drone ship was called the Of Course I Love You drone ship. So the astronauts had a successful launch. NASA Administrator Jim Brinson on Tuesday said our country's been through a lot. This is a unique moment when all of America can take a moment to look at our country and do something that's doing something stunning again, and that this launch of American astronauts and an American rocket from American soil to the space station, like, this is a big deal.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm paraphrasing. Saturday night, there was a tour of the spacecraft with the two astronauts on board using their onboard cameras. They basically showed the tiny amount of space that they work with, but how they make use of it. They had the two windows where they could watch the Earth below them.
See, that is so cool.
They named the capsule Endeavour because this was a huge endeavor, and because they both had their first flights on the shuttle Endeavour. And that's a long-running tradition for the astronauts to get to name their capsule. And they also introduced the world to a blue and pink sequined Apatosaurus that their sons, each agreed upon would be like their one thing they could take. That was their orange.
Yeah, gotcha.
A sequined dinosaur. And I caught, because I was watching the videos, all this stuff. The tour is available on YouTube. The launches are all available on, the tour's on Twitter. The rest of the videos are on YouTube. And I saw when they were like getting ready to dock on the space station, this dinosaur floating around in the camera, like in the corner. Someone's got to tell me about that. And then I found the tour. That was amazing. So 19 hours later, Crew Dragon docked at the International Space Station at 7:16 Pacific time. That was earlier today, early in the morning our time. There were a lot of airlocks that had to be done. They had to link power. There were so many things that had to be done before the hatches even opened. I had no idea how long of a process this was. They didn't make it out of the capsule and into the actual space station for another 3 hours, I think. Yeah, because it was at 10:15 they finally entered the capsule and joined the cosmonaut and the astronaut who are currently aboard the space station. So it was all in all a 22-hour operation, with most of the time of them sitting down, like we're doing. Wow. We started 3 p.m. today, and we're going to end 1 p.m. tomorrow. It's a 22-hour operation for us as well, as we sit and watch space programs.
Wow.
So, but all in all,
long,
incredibly successful mission, huge milestones, and America is now back in the age of space exploration thanks to a partnership between NASA and SpaceX, the commercial enterprise. And though NASA has a long history of partnering with private sectors, like was discussed in our show, they have never before handed over designs to a commercial team before, and they pulled it off.
Yeah.
And I hope our producer, I forgot to mention, has been showing their Instagrams and Twitter. I brought a lot of Instagram from the ISS and NASA's official sites, just going over all the cool stuff. Bob and Doug, they got some great white suits. They're like right out of nostalgic, like retro futurism.
That's awesome. Awesome. It was really cool.
A lot.
I feel like
I was very excited by all of it.
Yes, I feel like we're at a very interesting point in history, to be our age and for all the stuff that is going on. It's pretty incredible to witness it all, to be here for it all. Yeah.
I've always wondered, like, what was it like in the 1960s when everyone crowded around their televisions to watch people land on the moon? And I'm totally getting the full experience now.
Except now everybody's like this. It's not a TV.
Screens, but we're all,
it's a phone. Yeah. It's a small device in your hand that you can watch from anywhere. It's not the whole family
watching around one screen. It's everyone.
Yeah. It's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy. Shows you how far we've come.
And real quick, I know we're rushed on time. I will be more concise about this one because this is a cute story, but it's not like, changing history. You wanted to know what Lisa Kudrow's character could have done.
Yes.
This time. Well, so she was in the news recently with Jimmy Kimmel. She was sharing a story about an interaction with Matthew Perry, her former star of Friends, where Jimmy had asked her if she had any mementos from Friends. She goes, well, I was given one. So there's a green and white cookie jar that she has that has an alarm clock like face on it or something.
Yeah.
Or the jar looks like a clock and it has a smiley face on it. That's what it is. She pointed it out and she said Matthew Perry gave her this cooking jar as a wrap gift after the show had ended because of an inside joke they had while filming. She had a line where she was shooting a scene and says like, oh God, I'm late. I have to be going. but she didn't have a watch on. So she looked at the clock. It was a cookie jar, and went, "Oh my God, I'm late. I gotta go," and left. And then after Matthew Perry, because this was like kind of a moment of improvisation, he was like, "Did you just look at the cookie jar for the time?" And they had a big laugh about it. So
That's
he gave her
awesome.
the jar, and then she asked him, "It like, oh my God, that's amazing. How did you get it? Like, did they let you keep this?" And she never got a confirmation about whether or not it was stolen. So
So okay, so that's what she's. Well, Matthew Perry would go to jail then, I guess, if that was the.
well, possession is 8/10 of the law or something.
Something like that.
I don't know. I just wanted to segue into what I thought was a fun story.
No, I love it. I think that's awesome. I think that's great. And that's cool because, as I've said before, I love Lisa Kudrow, and huge fan of hers, and I love her acting and her humor. And so I'm happy that she has a space here, and that's cool, the cookie jar.
Yeah.
I love it.
I love the idea of like having mementos from sets and projects you worked on, and I think that's a really good one.
Yeah, that's a really good one, because that's not something you would find anywhere else.
Yeah, and it's not like it's like, oh, they got like the thing that everyone recognizes from the set. It was like this was something that was quieter in the background just for her, you know?
Mm-hmm. I love it. Awesome.
Because it wasn't her cookie jar, it was Monica and Rachel's.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I watch Friends, but I don't know it by heart. So I'm like, yeah, but I don't know.
I didn't know they had a cookie jar either.
So we're on the same page. Good.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, well, that is it for today, you guys. We will pick back up tomorrow to cover the last 2 episodes of this as we binge through the night. But before we go, Kevin, can you tell us where we can find you?
Yeah, you guys can find me on Twitter at Kevin Allen Says and Instagram at Kevin Allen Graham.
Awesome. And I am Tatiana Marisa at Tatiana Marisa on all social media platforms. Find us there, watch us. We're on a slew of other AfterBuzz TV shows. So what we like to watch, you like to watch. So we will catch you tomorrow for the last 2 episodes. Bye.
Our founder, Kevin Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.